If you have just inherited a house or you're about to, this video is specifically for you. I'm going to walk you through 6 things you need to do before you make any decision about that property. Some of what I'm about to cover you may have already heard, but I promise you, there is something in every single one of these steps that you haven't, because it only comes from doing this for a living. The stuff that only shows up when you've actually been inside these properties and walked through these situations firsthand. Let's get into it. The first thing that I want you to do is to protect the overall property. I want you to keep the utilities on. Here's what happens when people turn them off to save money. If the house sits vacant through the winter, the heat goes off, one cold snap is all it takes. Burst pipes, water everywhere. What would have been a clean, straightforward sale turns into a major repair project. I've seen this cost families the equivalent of a full floor replacement on the first level of the house. You've got a couple of options to prevent this. First is a full winterization of a house. Now, when I say winterization, I am not talking about dripping the faucets. I want you to completely drain the lines and protect all of the plumbing throughout the house. And the second one, which is the first thing I suggested, is to keep the utilities on. If that is your option, you need to keep the heat somewhere between 55 and 60 degrees. And you need to have someone walk through that property at least once a week. Vacant houses develop problems fast because there's nobody there to catch them. And then there's the insurance piece. And this one surprises a lot of people. Most standard homeowners policies quietly stop covering a property after it's been vacant for 30 to 60 days. Call the insurance company. Tell them that that property is vacant and make sure you've got the right policy in place. You do not want to find out that your coverage has lapsed after something goes wrong. Now let's talk about physically securing the house. Did you know that many police departments offer a vacant home watch program? Not every city has them, but when they do, they'll actually add your property to their patrol routes and keep an extra eye on it. That is a free layer of protection. If your city has it, use it. Now, I can't leave this topic without mentioning swapping out locks. Of course, you're going to secure all the doors and windows. But here's an area that a lot of people miss: the crawl space. If you have one, you need to secure that too. I've seen squatters take up residence there. And trust me, that is a whole can of worms you don't want to deal with. Step 3 is getting a probate attorney involved early. Now, I am not an attorney and this is not legal advice, but at the same time, I've watched families spend weeks, sometimes even months, making plans for a property before they fully understand who has the authority to make the decisions. The attorney helps identify who has the authority to act, make sure that title issues get addressed, deal with creditor claims if they exist, and they prevent surprises that can delay a sale down the road. The mistake that I see isn't that people skip the attorney. It's that they wait until there's a problem. And here's the thing: a lot of those problems are much easier to avoid than they are to fix. Step number 4 is finding out exactly what the house owes. I have watched many families make plans based on what they thought they would inherit, only to discover later that the numbers weren't what they expected. You need a title search, and the attorney that we just talked about can order that for you. This is where you discover what's hiding: liens, unpaid taxes, judgments, and one that catches people completely off guard: HOA special assessments. They're rare, but when they happen, they can be significant. The sooner you know exactly what the property owes, the sooner you know what options you actually have. Step 5 is getting the heirs aligned. This is where I see the most money disappear, and the culprit is lack of action. If there are multiple heirs, everybody needs to get on the same page as soon as possible. A vacant house sitting for 6 months while everybody decides what to do, that's 6 months of property taxes, 6 months of utilities, 6 months of insurance, 6 months of basic maintenance. Depending on the property, that's easily $3,000 to $6,000 gone. Then the real damage begins. The gutters fill up, roof leaks develop, HVAC system stops being maintained, and small issues quietly become larger ones. The house doesn't wait while the family debates, and every repair that could have been prevented reduces what everyone ultimately walks away with. And whatever you decide, get it in writing. I know your family. Do it anyway. A simple written agreement protects everyone, and it makes it much easier to move forward. Now, before we get to the last step, which is the hardest one, I want to pause for a moment. If this video is already giving you a clearer picture of what you're actually dealing with, I've put together an additional resource in the description. It's a checklist of everything we've discussed today. And if you've got a property right here in Metro Atlanta that you need help with, click the Work With Me link that's also in the description. And don't forget that like button. It really helps a teeny tiny little channel like mine. Now, let's talk about the part that nobody is quite ready for. Step 6, the belongings. Most people think that they're struggling with the property, but what they're actually struggling with is everything that the property represents. There are years of memories to sort through, decades sometimes. And if it's a hoarder situation, there's an extra layer of embarrassment, even shame layered on top of grief. Take your time here. It can be emotional in ways that you don't expect. I've walked into houses where this process took a single weekend. And I've worked with families where it felt overwhelming before they opened up the first closet door. Here's what I want you to hear. Don't rush this part. This is the only place in the entire video where I'm going to tell you to slow down. It can be surprisingly emotional when you're making the decision on what you're going to keep and what you're going to let go of. You do have some options here. 1, handle it yourself on your own pace. 2, you can bring in an estate sale company. They handle pricing, staging, selling, and they work for a percentage of the proceeds. And 3, you can hire a clean out service that cleans everything. This is what happens when you sell your house as is to an investor, usually when a family is completely done and they just want the house off their plate. Don't let anyone rush you through this process. But don't let the belongings become the reason the house sits untouched for a year either. Because remember the math that we went over in step 5? Every month that house sits, it costs you money. You have options. Use them. Once you've worked through these 6 steps, you're in a completely different position than most heirs. The property is protected, you know what it owes, the legal process is moving, and everyone involved understands the plan. Now you're ready for the question that everybody asks next. Should I fix the house up before selling? That's part 2 coming next week. I'm going to leave you with one last thing. If you have a general real estate question, reach out to me. Click the Ask Me Anything link in the description below. I'll see you next week for part 2.